Let's talk about how to sound more American. And the very first thing that I want to tell you is that you do not actually need to sound more American. You do not have to speak with an American accent or any other English accent for that matter. The most important thing is that people understand what you're saying and you're able to communicate with others. And be that as it may, many of you have still asked me if there are any pronunciation tips or tricks that you can use to help your speech have a more natural flowing sound. And because I'm from the United States, I can help you in that regard, which is why in this lesson, I want to talk to you about 5 different pronunciation hacks that you can use to sound more American. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English, which is all about helping you improve your skills so that you can reach your fluency goals. If that's what you'd like to do, please subscribe, turn on notifications so that you will learn about future lessons. Let's begin with my first pronunciation hack, which I think is, well, it's I think relatively simple, which is why I wanted to begin with this, and that is to use reductions. And this, I think, is very common in spoken English, not only in the United States, but I think among all English varieties. But I can tell you that in the US, people use reductions, especially common reductions, quite often. I'm talking about reductions like gonna, wanna, have to, has to. And right here, you can see that I am actually spelling these reductions, but just know that this is not something that you are going to use in writing. Here is the full form right here. You're really just going to use this in spoken English because, like I said, they're very common and you use them in everyday conversation. I could say something like, we have to go see the new Marvel movie. I really want to see it. I'm going to go see it today. So just listening to those sentences, did you hear the different reductions that I was using? Let's rewind and listen to those, and you can even repeat after me if you want to practice saying them. I could say something like, we have to go see the new Marvel movie. I really want to see it. I'm going to go see it today. All right, I hope you repeated those after me because I think, yeah, the more you use them and actually practice saying these reductions, the more comfortable you're going to feel just using them in general conversation. The one thing I do want you to be aware of is that in order to reduce a phrase like going to, you need to follow it with a base verb. Gonna play, gonna watch, gonna visit. If you follow it with a noun, you are not going to reduce this phrase. So I could say something like, I'm going to work. Work is a noun, and it's like I'm talking about I'm heading into the office. That's very different than I'm going to work. In that case, now I'm using it as the verb talking about the activity, working. So keep that in mind. I'm going to work versus I'm going to work. If you follow it with a noun, you are not going to reduce this. And yes, reductions I think is a very simple, and I say simple because I think they are just so common in spoken English. It's a very simple way to start practicing and actually giving your speech a more natural flowing sound in just general conversation. The next hack that I have for you is just to go crazy with the schwa sound. And if you don't know what the schwa sound is, it is an unstressed vowel sound. It sounds like and we use it a lot in words, but we also use it in reductions. I just talked to you about like going to becomes gonna. In that second syllable, gonna, you have that schwa sound. And I think that, well, people in the US, we use the schwa a lot, and there are maybe 2 different reasons for this. One is that people like to say things quickly and efficiently, and then the next reason would be that people, Americans, are just kind of lazy when it comes to pronunciation. I will like to think it's the first one, even though I think a strong argument could be made for the second. And really, when I talk about going crazy with the schwa sound, I really have 3 words in mind. And these 3 words right here, very common words. So instead of saying the article a, you just use the schwa, It's a very weak sound, and you can just like fly right through it and continue to the next word. You, the pronoun, also a very common word, has two accepted forms of pronunciation. One, I just said you, but you could also use the schwa and say ya, ya. And then finally, to, the preposition. In the United States, I do this quite often. Instead of actually saying to, I'm just going to use the schwa and say to. So let's look at a sentence, and I'm going to say it quickly and then slowly. And I really want you to listen for the schwa sound when I say these three words right here. So the sentence, it's really a question. I could say, do you need to go see a doctor? And then I'll break it down slowly, saying it one syllable at a time. There are 9 syllables. Do you need to go see a doctor? And then let's break it down into 3 different parts. Do you need to go see a doctor? So I hope that you could hear that schwa sound, that sound, when I was saying these words. Do you need to go see a doctor? And again, that schwa sound, it's just it's a very weak sound. It's letting you fly right through the sentence. And really the focus is on those other content words like need, go, see, doctor. And that's really the main message. That's the real thing that you want to take away from that question. But if you're going to say it quickly and you're from the United States, you might hear somebody say, do you need to go see a doctor? I know it can be a little confusing, but I think when it comes to using the schwa, especially with these words that I'm talking to you about right here, like ya, and ta, I think it really helps just to get more listening. So the schwa, even though it is a weak sound, and it's the most common sound in English, it's kind of like the magic elixir of the American accent. I want to take a quick moment and tell you about how you can speak directly with me and practice your speaking, improve your pronunciation, and that is by enrolling in my speaking course called Speak Up. Check out the link down below in the description. The course is all about trying to help you speak confidently, speak clearly, and speak naturally. The course includes weekly classes with me using Zoom, so you'll talk to me and your other classmates, and there are weekly PDFs about a variety of different topics. We do different speaking activities. The course also includes weekly pronunciation video lessons. There are also lesson preview videos, resource guides, a couple of audio lessons. There's a lot. So please check out that link down below in the description if you are interested in improving your speaking fluency. And best of all, you can use the code SPEAK10 to get a 10% discount. And if you have any questions, please send me an email at info@interactiveenglishvideos.com. I hope to speak to you soon. Let's continue with some more pronunciation hacks. And the next one I think is, well, it's very American, and that is to use the flap T. And in American English, the true T sound and the D sound are clearly different. So the T sound is voiceless and the D is voiced. So we have words like time versus dime. You can hear that difference between the T and the D. But the flap T, which is very common in the United States, it sounds like a soft D. And well, let's look at the word water. So when I say water, you probably hear that T and it's going to sound a little more like a soft D. Water. If I were to say this with an aspirated T sound, like a true T sound, you'd hear people, well, many people from all over the world say it like this. It would sound like water, water. It does take a little bit more effort than just using the flap T and saying water, water. And so in that case, I can understand if somebody were to make the argument that yes, American pronunciation, it's pretty lazy. In this case, yeah, we're kind of lazy when it comes to the flap T. So you may say a T as a flap T when it comes between two vowel sounds, like water or city or beautiful. You can say a T as a flap T when it comes after an R and before a vowel in words like party or dirty. And you could say a T as a flap T when it comes after a vowel and before a dark L in words like bottle or little. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to words in which people use the flap T. And I think what makes it even more challenging is that this also applies to phrases as well. Think of if somebody gives you like the command and they say, get in the car. If I were to link get in, now that T, it's going to come between those two vowel sounds, and I could use the flap T. So instead of saying get in the car, I could say get in the car, get in the car. And I think subtitles can be very helpful when it comes to, well, understanding which words use the flap T, because you're able to see the spelling and listen to the pronunciation at the same time. But the flap T, it's very American. My next pronunciation hack, and I think this is a pretty simple one, is just to pronounce certain words like Americans do. And what I mean by this is that there are a variety of words in which American English and British English differ. And both forms are accepted, both are fine, but if you're traveling in the United States and you want to make sure that there is no misunderstanding when it comes to pronunciation, it's good to be aware of some of these differences when it comes to some of the words like the ones that I'm about to share with you. So let's start with the word advertisement. I'm giving you both the IPA and the phonetic spelling so that you can see the pronunciation. So in the US, I would say advertisement. In the UK, people would say advertisement. This word, I would say vitamin. But in the UK, people would say vitamin. Now, to me, this is a tomato. but many other people would say it's a tomato. And then we have this word right here, aluminum, which actually in the UK and I think many other parts of the English-speaking world, they even spell it differently and pronounce it differently, which is aluminium. So this is not something that you need to study, but really just be aware of it, because I think over time, as you are listening to people speak English who are from the United States, maybe you're listening to them out on the street or in a movie or TV show, you are naturally going to become familiar with the way people pronounce individual words. And my final pronunciation hack is for you to develop a rhythm and flow to your speech. Because, well, language, it's like music, especially English. And I don't think that this is anything that is distinctly American. I think all English varieties have a rhythm and flow. But the real question then becomes, well, how do you do this? One way to try and do this is to speak in phrases with some slight pauses and not word for word. So when I just said that, I was giving you an example. So let's go back, let's rewind, listen to it again, and see if you can hear that rhythm and flow that I was just talking about. One way to try and do this is to speak in phrases with some slight pauses and not word for word. So I just took this one sentence and broke it into 4 different phrases, which kind of gives it a nice natural flow instead of, well, saying it word for word, which may end up sounding a bit more robotic. One way to try and do this is to speak in phrases with some slight pauses and not word for word. Okay, it doesn't sound natural. I was trying to say this sentence at the same speed, but I think you can hear a difference when I said those two. Now, I know that this can be challenging because when you're learning another language or when you're in the middle of a conversation, you might be searching for the next word that you want to use, or maybe you're even doing some translating in your head. And when that happens, I think you're more likely to end up speaking word for word. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think over time, as you get more exposure to the language and you're able to listen to that rhythm and flow, the more practice that you get speaking and having different conversations and feeling more comfortable talking about a variety of different topics, then I think that you're not going to need to speak word for word. You'll be familiar with the conversation and you'll be able to focus on speaking in those phrases and developing that natural rhythm and flow. So I hope you enjoyed these pronunciation hacks and you feel like you can go out there, start a conversation and sound more American. But remember, you don't have to if you don't want to. Please hit that like button if you learned something new, and also write to me in the comments. I always love hearing from you. And remember, check out that link down below if you'd like to sign up for the speaking course, Speak Up, so that you can talk directly with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. So long.